Welcome back to the Tennis Doctors, where physicians discuss the world of men's professional tennis. I'm Jay Schreither, and with me, Dr. Arjun Watani. Arjun, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Excited for this one.
I'm rocking my playoff beard. I'm a little disheveled. I'm stressed. I'm twitchy, and that's because we've had some late night tennis at the U.S. Open, and my sleep suffers, my mood suffers, my work output does not suffer, thankfully. But what does not suffer is my enjoyment of tennis. We used to have some fantastic matches. Our last four night sessions at the Open, going back to the weekend, we had Kyrgios, Medvedev, Alcaraz, Cilic, Sinner and Vashka the same night. Then Kyrgios, Kachanov, and then last night Sinner, Alcaraz. And so here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about the U.S. Open 2022 semifinalists and project forward. But I want to take a minute to go back and just talk about them in the context of the matches that just happened. So we're going to set some time limits here to be very structured. We're going to aim for about 20 minutes. We're going to spend 5 minutes per semifinalist and talk about them and the match they're involved in. So we have to start with Carlos Alcaraz, who played Arjun an incredible match with Jannik Sinner. It was a match for those who watched it live. It's gotten a lot of comparisons, Arjun, to some of the greatest matches ever played, and I'm curious what you think. It was a little up and down. It was a little bit odd in terms of the number of breaks. I think Sinner got broken 11 times in this match, and Alcaraz, I think 7.
Yeah.
I, I just think let's just take a moment and appreciate these guys have a combined age younger than Roger Federer. I think that there's got to be a little bit of appreciation first for Jannik Sinner, who still hasn't made a Grand Slam semi,
Yeah.
but it's going to happen. I mean, this is not an Andre Rublev situation. We'll get to Rublev later. Sinner is going to make it, barring injury.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe this was just a quarterfinals. It felt like very semifinal-esque or even finals-esque. And with the length of the match, the time of the match going on for more than 4, maybe 5 hours, the one of the latest matches ever played, ending well after 2 a.m. It just had a huge aura of grandiosity that none of the matches, I think, before this match in the U.S. Open this year felt like. But so this was an exciting match. What I learned from it, though, Alcaraz, he's able to elevate his game. We've seen that before in past tournaments, but he went to another level this game. And
Yeah.
Sinner too. Credit to Sinner. It's one of those matches where when Nadal and Federer play in finals, they always say it could have gone either way. This match could have gone either way.
Yeah.
It was showtime, and both of them, deserve to win. But ultimately, it sucks that in tennis, only one person can win.
Yeah.
But what I learned from Alcaraz, yeah, he can elevate his game. He loves a showtime. He thrives in the limelight. He thrives for those big moments, and his fitness is incredible to
Yeah.
go from finishing, I think, 2 nights prior a late match, and then again tonight or last night, and going these long matches and still looking fresh. And finally, you can. What I always say on this show is the people that I see succeed are the ones who can adapt. And
Right.
I'm watching him change his strategies. He's going from hitting mainly baseline points to returning from 50 feet behind the baseline,
Yeah.
hitting drop shots, coming to the net a lot more at different points, attacking the return or defending the return. He's really adapting his game. So from that match, I was just very impressed at what he can do on the court, his IQ and his fitness,
Yeah.
elevating his game and taking it to another level.
So funny. This is why I love this show. So we have different. You can watch the exact same match and take two different things from it, right?
Yeah.
And I watched this match, and my impression coming out of it, which is probably not opposed to your impression, I would say all the things you just said about Yannick Sinner, because I thought Sinner was incredible, and he really blew my expectations. I mean, we don't talk about him as a U.S. Open threat. He wasn't even really in our draw analysis because he had such a weird,
Yeah.
like you a hard court season. And I'm really starting to think if you look at his best of 5 set results, he is a tough out in 5 sets. And I think he's an easier out in 3 sets. And part of the problem for him is he's very streaky because he doesn't hold serve consistently and he can go through patches where he's just missing. And then
Yeah.
you can go through patches where he's unplayable for 4 or 5 games. And I think the best of three makes him much more susceptible to really bad losses, where
Yeah.
he doesn't have time to make up ground. Because this match, I mean, let's just quickly run through it. Sinner was down a set, was up a break in the second, got broken, and then saved 4 set points at 5-6. I mean, forget he served for the second set. Everyone says Alcaraz should have won that set, but Sinner served for the set and got broken,
Yeah.
and then wins the tiebreak, saving another set point there. The third set, back and forth affair. Alcaraz serves for it. Sinner breaks back. Sinner goes up a break in the fourth, but then he gets broken back. And part of the things, I think this was an incredibly fun match to watch and dramatic because there weren't that many cheap points.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them is dominant on serve, and both of them are great returners. So you get a ton of physical, grueling rallies,
Yeah.
and you don't get a ton of cheap points like we'll talk about in Kyrgios catching up, or
Yeah.
even TFO Rublev, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's hard. People were like, oh, like they would have beaten anyone in the tournament playing like this. Is like, yeah, if they played neutral rallies the whole match, yes.
Yeah.
But this is part of the problem Alcaraz has with his Zverev if he's serving well. Is because Zverev is going to get a ton of free points. Alcaraz isn't getting those free points.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Exactly.
the problem they would have with Medvedev if he was playing well, or with Kyrgios if he's playing well, or even Nadal and Djokovic to an extent get more free points now than Alcaraz and Sinner get at 19 and 21.
Yeah.
But I thought Sinner, I mean, he was just so both the guys were resilient, but maybe I just didn't expect it of Sinner. I didn't expect the physical toughness. I didn't expect him to hang. I do think he faded physically at the end, but who can blame him? I think after 5 hours, he was kind of toast. He's had longer matches overall heading to this turn. And I just felt gutted for Sinner a little bit. I was rooting for Alcaraz, but this was a match, like you said, no one deserved to lose. Looking ahead for Carlos, the real question, the fitness, back to back 5 setters. I think he's fit enough to do it and he's young. But I think the long term projection is he wants the smoke. We said, who wants the smoke? Carlos Alcaraz does not care who he's playing. And I would say, actually, his biggest problem, which is his biggest strength, is he plays the same way no matter what. It's match point down. He's going to go for a winner.
Yeah.
It's almost to his detriment at some point because he misses wildly looking for the big, spectacular shot. But that's just who he is. And he plays the first point the same as the last
Yeah.
point, very similar to Nadal, but in a completely different way. Where
Yeah.
Nadal is just like, I'm going to hang in this point and win. Alcaraz like, I'm going to win this point
That's
now.
that's what I was gonna say too. Something that he needs to watch out for next match is he goes for way too many highlight reel-esque shots,
Yep. Yep.
especially on break points and on those big moments. Yeah, he makes some. He does well, and they look great for ESPN. But
You can't argue with the results. I mean, he's winning.
yeah, he's winning.
But it feels
But
like it should be easier for him.
it feels like he needs to make the opponent play a little more and be a little less ambitious on those shots and improve his. I think he had 26 break points and
Oh, he was, and
11.
most of them were just missed
Yeah,
shanks, returns, and Sinner played so smart on those break
yeah.
points in terms of how he played. Sinner had match point in the fourth set, made an
So much
error. I
credit
think,
to Sinner. Yeah, we
yeah,
never.
Sinner got tight. Both guys got tight. This is the thing. If you watch
Yeah,
this match later, you're going to be like, I don't get the fuss. Yeah,
yeah,
there's some great hitting, but there's a lot of chokings, tightness. If you watched it live, it's just fascinating. We don't see often two guys colliding at the same age. They're not the
yeah,
exact same age, but they're the same sort of rising guys.
yeah,
It's very unique. So
yeah,
let's talk about Alcaraz's opponent, Francis Tiafoe. We talked about him last time, beat Nadal,
yeah,
casually took care of Rublev. It wasn't really a problem for him. Very professional win. Wasn't threatened. That match had no breaks until the third set, unlike this Alcaraz Sinner match. And Francis Tiafoe now he's not the favorite. I think Alcaraz is the favorite, but he is in the US Open semi and he thinks he can win. I think he really thinks he can win this event now.
yeah. Yeah, I think one big component that's going to come into this is the fitness. Can Alcaraz hang after 2 5-set matches? Yeah, he's young, but your muscles still take a big beating after two
Yeah.
back-to-back 5-set matches out like over the course of 4 or 5 days. And so, can he come out fresh on Friday afternoon? That's a really tough ask. I don't think he can actually come out fully fresh and play his 100%. Is that 100% better enough to beat TFO? I think it is. Although TFO, he's on a roll right now. He has a lot of momentum with him.
Do you think so? The question everyone's asking, we know Alcaraz is going to be back, I think,
Yeah,
barring injury. We know Sinner's going to be there,
yeah,
barring injury. Rublev has kind of, and Andre Rublev, poor mention for him. I feel bad for the guy. He's sort
Yeah.
of plateaued as a quarterfinalist. He can't get past that
Yeah.
round. This was his best chance, and he still hasn't won a set, I think, in any of his quarterfinal matches. And this is the one he probably should have won.
Yeah.
You're gonna. This is not you wouldn't match this on paper and said you're gonna lose in straights, right? So
Yeah.
Andre Rublev may have hit his peak. Is this a one-off for TFO? Like, do you think that he's 24? Like, do you think this
Yeah.
translates in him being consistent and going deep? Do you think this is his one run and this is his chance to take it? Like, how do you view this for him?
Yeah, so I don't think this is a fluke at all. I think TFO, I used to be a hater, I admit it, and but now that I've seen the work that he's put in, and I'm watching it culminate and put it all, and he's putting it all together. He's
Yeah,
having much better shot selection. He's having a very strong commitment to his game plan out there, and emotionally in the tough part of the matches and in the not so crucial point of the matches he's still concentrated throughout. I mean, beating Rublev in 3 sets is not a joke. This match could have easily been 4 or 5 sets, but he's in both tie breaks. He
he's been
stuck with his game plan.
hasn't
So
lost a tiebreak yet in the
yeah.
tournament.
And the what I will say though that is his serve. Yeah, it's dominant. It's a huge serve. He's winning 88% of his first serves that go in. 18 aces this last match, but he only made 50% of his first serves.
Yeah, low
And
percentage.
so that's a low percentage to beat Alcaraz, who's, standing like back essentially at like 50 feet, 20 feet back from the baseline.
For the
He's
first
not,
serve. For
on,
the
on the
first serve.
first serve.
Yeah, but this,
He's not
but
going to
the,
get aced as much as maybe Rublev did.
and Nadal and Rublev aren't guys who punish your second serve. Last night, one of the reasons that match was very tense and those
Yeah,
guys struggled to hold is because anytime they were in a second serve, the other guy was in control of the point. They were just
yeah,
destroying that first ball. Alcaraz is going to go after that second serve.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's going to be exciting. I think TFO, he's athletic. He's relying on these his athletic instincts and his
Yeah.
IQ, which is exciting to watch. Both of them great players. Great, both have great motivation. I'm excited to see how this turns out. In terms of who wins between them two, talent and skill wise, I have to go with Alcaraz, and I'm betting that.
How many sets?
Sorry.
How many sets?
This is probably 4 sets for Alcaraz. I think he knows he needs to get it done quicker than 5, otherwise he's toast.
Well, we can get to toast in a second because we have the other half to talk about. I mean, for me, I think Alcaraz is going to be back. We'll get to Ruud and Kachanov. Obviously, this would be career changing for any of these guys to win a slam. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
devalue it. But if I think about for the state of men's tennis, who of these four winning sort of changes the calculus about who's in the mix in the next few years?
yeah,
I mean, Karen Kachanov, maybe he becomes Stan Wawrinka. Maybe I just don't see it. Like, I think if he wins, this is his one shining moment. I think there are weaknesses to his game inherent to his game that
yeah,
are always going to limit him.
yeah,
I think Ruud is who he is. I think it'd be a nice story, and we'll get to Casper Ruud in a second. But again, I don't think it's going to drastically. He's mentally tough already. I mean, he's already sort of maxing out his
yeah,
ability, and I think Alcaraz is going to be there regardless, unless he gets hurt. I mean, even if he doesn't win, he's still going to end up as the guy. I think that's happening.
yeah,
TFO of the four, if I think he's the guy now that Sinner's out. I think if he won, it could actually vault him into a place where he might be a guy who hangs around and competes for the slams. He's a top 5, 6. Like maybe I'm thinking of the Wawrinka moment. The light bulb goes off, and it's like, okay, this guy is not just a one-time wonder. He's going to compete, and you have to worry about him as a consistent threat in slams if you're playing him, if you're Nadal, if you're Djokovic, if you're Alcaraz, if you're
yeah,
Sinner as he moves up. And I do think that his mental, I just have it'll be interesting. You know, Wawrinka lost to Djokovic in that epic match, and he used that as the jumping point. A lot of those tough losses to keep getting better and finally win the Aussie Open. It would be curious to see what, for example, Yannick Sinner took from that match. I think he's going to be fine either way. But if TFO, if he doesn't win, right,
yeah,
does it help him mentally or does it set him back, right, where he gets frustrated again? It's just a run. But I think if he wins, he's not a guy I think who's going to get lazy or laden. I think it's actually going to build his confidence. And so I think he's the guy.
mm-hmm.
He has a low margin game, but he could actually, this could change the calculus about who's a contender next year, for example, at the Aussie Open, if he could be one of those guys. For me, I'm taking Alcaraz, and I'm going to say 5. I think
Yeah,
he's already played 2 5-setters in a row. And I think Carlos Alcaraz doesn't know what's good for him. And I think he's going to find his way into another 5-setter. He's going to win an epic 5-setter and fall to the ground. He's going to have
Yeah.
to win 3 5-setters to get to the final. I think this is going to be an epic match, and I hope we don't get let down after the other night. Ruud Kachanov. A note about Karen Kachanov, right? He beats Nick Kyrgios, very different 5-setter.
Mm-hmm.
Barely any breaks. If you got a break in a set, it was like that was the set. That's what happened in the fifth. He broke early, held the set. Complete opposite of the Alcaraz Sinner match.
Mm-hmm.
Two more limited returners, two better servers. And, we talked about it. We said Kachanov would be a tougher match for Kyrgios than Medvedev. And a note about Nick Kyrgios, before we move on to Kachanov, I think this showed that he has his limitations. He is not Roger Federer.
Yeah.
He is not Rafa Nadal. He is not Novak Djokovic. He is an all-time great talent,
Yeah.
but he hasn't shorn up his weaknesses over the years, or maybe he hasn't been able to, or he's not capable of, and they got exposed. His weaknesses in terms of returns, his mental lapses, his lack of movement sometimes. And really, I mean, Kachanov outplayed him backhand to backhand. That was really the story of the match.
Yeah. Yeah. We said the same things about Medvedev versus and then Kachanov, that this is going to be a tougher match. I think Kachanov last night was incredibly clutch, serving his way out of trouble on a lot of break points that he faced. I think he faced 9 of them and only lost 2 of them, and so that's a really good margin. He served his way out of those, and he's been effective on Nick's second serve as well, winning a lot of those points as well, and just
Yep.
attacking those. So he's been returning really well, serving really well, and I think those qualities are what's going to carry him into the next match against Rude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's played pretty solid this match with fewer ups and downs than I've seen in the past. I watched him in person at his match against PCB, and
You weren't impressed.
I was not impressed because he had a lot of valleys and he had some peaks, but in just enough to carry him over the edge and win.
Yeah.
But I was not like, wow, this guy's going to be a semifinalist. Wow, this guy's going to be a finalist.
Well, Kachanov
So
is a guy. If you catch him on the right day, he could look
yeah,
like the best player in the world. If you catch him on the wrong day, he looks like he doesn't belong in the top 100.
yeah, very
So
streaky. So I'm excited for him. He's been in the top 10
yeah,
before, and he's been
good
in.
for him.
He's he's one of those
He earned it.
people, like yeah, he earned it. He's been hanging in there, continuing to put in the hard work. Every few tournaments, he puts it together, and so he's always a threat when he's out there.
Yeah.
But for against Nick Kyrgios, it did show that he has his weaknesses. That yeah, he's not a legendary player. He's not a Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, and there is a way to beat Nick Kyrgios, and certain players will get to him.
And part of it, the mental aspect. I mean, we don't have to belabor it, but you play a tweener and a big point in the first game of the fifth set that you
Yeah,
didn't have to play, and you lose that point.
that
And
was,
yeah, if you're Nick Kyrgios, you think, okay, I can just rip a couple big serves and get out of it. And but the problem is the margins get slim. You don't do that, you get broken. And he was the one after that. Kachanov wasn't in any of his service games. Kyrgios was in a bunch of Kachanovs, but
yeah,
every time he got a chance, it got whipped down. That's what happened. You give up. You
yeah,
can't dig yourself out of trouble
yeah,
against good tennis players by being dumb, frankly. I mean,
yeah,
you just can't do dumb stuff.
yeah,
And so Kachanov, I do think that Casper Ruud destroyed Matteo Berrettini. And look, we thought Berrettini was the guy.
hmm,
I hope this doesn't define Berrettini, but very similar to Rublev hitting a ceiling at the quarterfinals.
yeah,
You at some point are who you are. And Berrettini, the whole narrative has been, man, if he could just avoid Nadal and Djokovic, he's going to
yeah,
win a slam. If he could
exactly,
just avoid these guys. But very quietly, he's only beaten one top 10 player in his
yeah,
career. And yeah, he beat Alcaraz this year, and Alcaraz became a top 10 player. So that's a good win. He's had some good wins. I'm not trying to bring him
yeah,
down, but this was clearly Rude played great. We'll get to Rude in a second, but this
yeah,
was clearly Berrettini getting tight.
yeah,
Berrettini is not a guy who gets broken multiple times in sets.
yeah,
He's not a guy who struggles to hit his forehand. And maybe he was tired, but I didn't seem it just seemed like it took him 2 sets to wake up. And by the time he woke up, it was too late. I think
yeah,
he's got to be incredibly disappointed. Apparently, he was super dejected after the match and his presser, and afterwards, he was just very upset. I think he felt maybe like Kyrgios did when he came out flat. They felt the pressure of there's no Nadal, there's no Medvedev. Maybe it's my chance. I think he's going to be disappointed, and I hope that he can build off it. And this doesn't mean that this is his ceiling.
yeah. For Berrettini, I was a huge fan of him coming into this tournament. I still am a huge fan. I think he'll win a slam at some point, and I thought this was the one after his impressive runs on the grass court. He didn't have the greatest hard court season, but still I picked him because he lost to some good players.
Yeah.
What I think it came down to was his fitness wasn't as strong as he once was. I don't know if it was a COVID in him that like reduced his fitness and is
Well,
still lingering.
he's been out for a lot of the year.
It could have easily been. He's been out. He didn't have the same match practice, 3 out of 5 set match practices or long
Right.
matches. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. I still have hope for him in the future. But
I,
yeah, it was a
yeah.
poor showing. He looked flat coming out and try to put in a last ditch effort, but you can't do that again.
I I've changed my mind, man. And after watching Sinner and Alcaraz the way they played, I don't want to read too much in one match. I don't
Yeah,
think Berrettini can hang with guys like that. I mean, the serve is obviously the great equalizer. He beat Alcaraz this year. I worry with Berrettini. And let's talk about Casper Ruud. Berrettini is
yeah,
a guy who's put in work and he's tried to shore up his weaknesses. Unlike Kyrgios, he's tried
yeah,
to shore up his weaknesses. He's improved his movement. He's
yeah,
worked as much as he can in his back, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that because he's a hard worker. I wonder if he's hitting his ceiling just because that he just can't improve that anymore. Like
yeah,
I don't want to limit him, but I wonder if his backhand is always just going to be a liability, and
yeah,
his return to serve is always going to be a liability, especially on the backhand side. And Casper Ruud, he keeps just blowing expectations out of the water. He started as, oh, there's this cute story. He's the son of a former pro, and maybe he's going to be a top 100 player. That was the thing 3 4 years ago. Oh, he's a good junior, but he'll probably peak as like a top 100 player. He
yeah,
has no weapons. And then it was like, oh, he's got a good forehand, but only on clay. He'll be a top 40 kind of clay court dirt baller. And
yeah,
then it was like, oh, he can improve his backhand his serve a little bit. He's going to be like a borderline top 10 player, but really he's not a threat for any of the top guys.
yeah.
And then it was, oh, he's in the French Open final, but yeah, we talked about it just because his drop and he just got lucky. And now he could be world number one. And I mean, in a hot minute, if Alcaraz loses to TFO and Ruud beats Karen Khachanov, which are very plausible scenarios,
Yeah,
Casper would be your number one. And you know what? If he plays the way he did when he beat Berrettini, he was awesome. This was the best match I've ever seen him play. And his backhand has gotten so much better. His serve has gotten so much better.
yeah,
He competes. He is mentally tough. He has put in the work. And you know what? I am very comfortable if Casper Ruud can win these matches. I
yeah.
think it would be kind of nice if he wins the U.S. Open to validate being number one versus losing. But if he wins the U.S. Open and becomes number one, more power to him because he has clearly put in the miles to be a better player.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that someone with his serve is good. It's not outstanding. It's a solid serve for the men's tour. And playing Berrettini, he's a decent returner, not great, not terrible, but no aces against Berrettini. So that in his 3 sets that he won, 6-1, 6-4,
But
7-6.
but only broken once or twice. I think
Only
it was.
broken once. Yeah, he was winning 65% of his first serve, or 75% of his first serve
Yeah.
points.
So
So he's getting them off balance and maybe winning a lot of 1-2 points. But
yeah,
I think that shows that he knows that he's playing high percentage tennis, like a
yeah,
high IQ tennis. He has great sense of the court. I saw some of these crazy points where he was running around sliding, and his court sense is incredible. He's
yeah,
super fast, passing shots. I think he has a lot of understated parts of his game that people, they're great for tennis, but they don't make a lot of highlight reels. So he's
yeah,
kind of like almost like a Andy Murray who kind of looks boring but plays amazing. Andy Murray in his peak years who looks
yeah.
boring while playing but can beat anyone out there on a good day. So I think
Except
after,
Nadal. I don't think
yeah,
yeah. I think his struggles against guys who can get to his backhand will be there, but it's gotten better. The
yeah,
one thing I'll say about Ruud Kachanov, which is what we're going to talk about, it's not the semi we were anticipating, but we knew that Tsitsipas quarter was going to fall apart. We
yeah,
just didn't think it'd be Ruud. We thought it'd be Berrettini.
yeah,
And Kachanov did what he had to do. He didn't have to beat Medvedev, but he took out. One thing we have to remember: tennis is all about matchups.
hmm,
And we got blinded to this because the big three against everyone else, the matchups didn't matter. They would just
yeah,
beat them.
yeah,
But within the big three, we saw the importance of matchups, right? In their primes, Nadal was a tough matchup for Federer because of the forehand of the backhand.
yeah,
Djokovic was a tough matchup for Nadal because of the backhand could hold up to the forehand.
yeah,
And Federer was actually a tough matchup for Djokovic in their primes because he could take away his time.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors. It depended on the surface. But the point is, there are always matchups always matter. Sinner is a
Mhm.
tough matchup for Alcaraz.
Mhm.
Just because Alcaraz struggles with Sinner doesn't mean he's going to struggle with TFO.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true. Just because Kyrgios beats Medvedev doesn't mean that he's going to beat the 20 something ranked player in the world, Kachanov. That's a tougher match for him. So I think non big three, Ruud Kachanov to me is, I'm thinking matchups, right?
Yeah.
What kind of players does Casper Ruud struggle against? And what kind of players does Karen Kachanov struggle against? And Casper Ruud struggles against guys who can pin him in the backhand corner. And that's his big struggle. That's why beating Nadal and Djokovic and probably even Alcaraz based on their Miami match is always going to be a challenge for him. He gets pinned
Yeah.
in that corner and it's game over.
Yeah.
I don't know. Karen Kachanov hit his backhand awesome in this match. I don't know if he returns well enough to get Ruud into trouble on his
Yeah.
backhand side. Meaning Ruud's going to get to his forehand on serve. I view this as a tight match because of that. Because I think both guys are going to hold serve. If
Yeah.
Kachanov plays smart, which he played against Kyrgios, he's going to keep going to the backhand and pin him there. I think this is a multiple tiebreak type match. And I'm going to go with Casper Ruud just because I trust him to gut it out. And I think he'll be a little bit fresher.
Yeah.
It'll be hard for Kachanov to repeat the performance he had. But for me, Kachanov struggles against guys who are consistent and also can mix it up. And Ruud doesn't really mix it up, but I think he's smart enough. He's going to throw in some slices for a 6'6" guy. He's going to get him low. He's
Yeah.
going to junk it a little bit. And he's going to go after the weaker side for Kachanov in terms of errors is the forehand side for Kachanov.
Yeah.
And if Ruud can get forehands inside into the Kachanov forehand or cross court forehands to Kachanov forehand, that side breaks down because he's got a very odd take back and a grip. And so I think Kyrgios's big mistake was he really got trapped in a lot of those backhand rallies.
Yeah.
And he was much more successful in the match when he took the backhand up the line. He was winning almost all those points going up the lines. I think Ruud will be more consistent in employing that tactic.
Yeah, I think the backhand, exactly what you said overall was a key for Kachanov's matchup with Kyrgios, and his Kyrgios's margins are so low that he can't compete and he can't keep that high level over a long period of time. For Ruud versus Kachanov, I agree too. I think Ruud's backhand is much better than Kyrgios's and can withstand those long rallies. Um, I think the key for Kachanov will be to continue hitting those big serves with a high percentage,
Yep.
especially to the backhand, pin him to the backhand, and wait for the 1, 2, 2, 3 shot
Yeah.
points where he can kind of attack and come to the net, or just keep Ruud in a difficult position. But he really needs to control his serve and make sure it goes in a good at a high percentage.
Yeah.
For
I,
Ruud, I think Ruud needs to gut it out. It's not there's Kachanov has an overall great game, but not any overall glaring weaknesses that
yeah.
Ruud can really exploit. So I think Ruud, he just needs to play his game, keep Kachanov moving, keep him like on his toes, get him a little frustrated, which I saw when he was playing PCB, he was getting pissed off. I
Yeah.
think as long
And,
as Ruud plays
and
his game, keeps him like doesn't give him too much, keeps the balls deep, doesn't give him too many opportunities.
yeah.
He'll have, I think, a 3 to 4 set. I'll go 4 to be safe. 4 set match
Yeah.
against Kachanov.
And the other thing that impressed me about Ruud, we mentioned, he was playing knowing that we said Berrettini got tight and Kyrgios maybe was a little tight coming out. Ruud
Yeah,
could have been tight because he
yeah,
could have been like, oh my God, I could be world number one if I win 2 more matches. He
yeah,
didn't know if Alcaraz was going to beat Sinner or not. And he did not look tight. He was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to win this match. And I think if he's going to probably come, I think based on the sample, I'd be shocked if he came out flat. He's going to come out firing. So
yeah,
that means we are both thinking that the final on Sunday,
yeah,
the final everyone picked, right? Alcaraz Ruud
yeah.
for the world number one, all the marbles. I'm thinking Alcaraz is going to be coming off 3 straight 5 setters into that match. You think he'd be toast if that was the case. And I'm saying I'm going to pick Carlos Alcaraz to win 3 straight 5 setters and beat Casper Ruud in the final in straight sets because I just think that is a horrendous matchup for Ruud because unless he can get Alcaraz to overhit, Alcaraz is going to attack his serve whenever he can. He's going to pin him in the backhand corner. And I don't think Alcaraz, defensively, Alcaraz is good enough to reset those points when Ruud is trying to bully him with the forehand and reset those points. And if he plays anything like he did last night, Ruud's not winning that match.
Yeah.
And I think Carlos Alcaraz is going to be the youngest number one we've ever seen on the men's tour since the Open era began.
I think that's a very fair point. I think Rude has a lot of positives that going up against, and yeah, I agree. Alcaraz will beat TFO, and although I think it'll be much more likely 3 to 4 sets, he needs to take care of business. TFO is going to come out firing, but I don't see him beating Alcaraz in a box office match like this again. But for Rude, I don't think he can take it. I don't think he can hang with Alcaraz, but I think it's going to come down to a show of fitness. I think
Mm.
it's Rude is clearly fit enough to hang matches, and Alcaraz is too. But I just know that after playing so many 5 setters, it's so tough on the body. Maybe he has Nadal's mentality where he gives
He's
everything.
19,
He,
Arjun. We could run full court all day when you're 19 and come back the next
I
day and
played
do it
tennis for
again, you know?
45 minutes and my body is hurting when I used to be able to play for 3 hours straight. But it's such a tough ask of Alcaraz. He's
So to end on this note, you think the strategy for the final, Alcaraz can just play his game, but Rude is the one. If you're his coach, you're telling him extend the rallies, make it physical, hang, and just
I,
try to work the
yeah.
guy's body because he may not be feeling like that would be his strategy. You think would be extend rallies, extend points, make things long, make Alcaraz work as much as possible.
Yeah, even that, yeah, make him play every point, every first serve, every second serve, and don't go for huge shots. Just hang in there, hold your serve, of course. But even on his games, don't go for straight out big returns. Go
Yeah,
for points and rallies and make him hang because Rude is fresh coming off of his
yeah.
matches. So yeah, it's going to be a grueling match for either of them. And but there's going to be a new champion. I think ultimately we'll see Alcaraz win. And if I had to put money, I would put it on him. But this is exciting. I never, we talked about how Alcaraz will win one maybe next year. And this is much earlier than we thought he would win.
Yeah.
I think it's great for men's tennis. And if any of these guys win, it's great for men's tennis. I don't see, just my 2 cents here. From these four, I don't see Kachanov winning another one, or like coming
Right.
in the semis or finals, like
But the
anytime.
other three, you could see any of the other three. Alcaraz for sure, and if TO4
Yeah,
Rude win, they could probably win another slam.
I could see them winning slams, maybe one or two, or at least or multiple. And yeah, I feel for the losers of these quarterfinals, and I have a
Yeah,
question for you. From the losers of the quarterfinals,
yeah.
Rublev, Kyrgios, who
Sinner
else?
and Berrettini.
Berrettini.
Disappointed group.
Who do you think would be the most likely to win a championship after this?
I think the same answer as I thought before the tournament. It's Yannick Sinner.
Yeah,
I just think he's got age on his side. He played of the three guys there the best match. I mean, he
yeah,
was absolutely. I'm just saying mentally, he
mhm,
was incredibly resilient in that match. Dug himself out of love 40 holds, broke when he had to, and
yeah,
his hitting was extraordinary. I mean, he is going to win a slam barring injury or barring this becoming a mental demon for him that he can't get over this hump. But I think
yeah,
he's had tough draws. I mean, that's the one thing about Sinner you have to realize. He hasn't had an easy quarter yet. He played Nadal at the French. He
yeah.
played Tsitsipas Australia, who loves playing there, and
Mhm.
then he played Djokovic at Wimbledon, and then Alcaraz here at the U.S. Open. None of those are easy matches. He wasn't favored in any single one of them. I wait for his Rublev moment. When does he get the moment where in a quarterfinal? And I think once he gets past that, I don't worry about his mentality. I think Cahill's done a great job with him. I would say the least likely is going to be Rublev. I think
Yeah,
or Andre Rublev. And let's pour one out while we're here before we go. Let's pour one out for three guys who are going to watch one of these four guys win a slam before them.
yeah,
Alexander Zverev,
yeah.
Stefanos Tsitsipas, and
FAA.
Nick Kyrgios.
Oh, okay. Kyrgios.
Who are you thinking?
I thought you were gonna say FAA at the last second.
FAA, no, he's in a
Well,
different category. And I'll say
Kyrgios
the other thing.
Kyrgios will not watch this match. These
After
matches.
watching last night's match, I don't think FAA is winning a slam, barring something drastic happening,
Yeah.
because he cannot. No, he blew Sinner out of the water earlier this year because he can serve and he can hit the +1, and Sinner has a bad match. But in best of five,
Mhm.
I don't know about
Him
you know
beating Alcaraz. I can't see
Yeah,
that happening in best of five.
he beat him last year, right? So I think
Yeah.
the serve matters, but you know what? I don't feel bad for Alex. I feel bad Alexander Zverev's hurt. He could have won the 2020 US Open. He served for it. He
Hmm.
was up a break. He was up 2 sets to love, and he didn't do it. He didn't get it done. Tsitsipas was up 2 sets to love at the French Open. Yeah, he had to beat Djokovic, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't get it done. This is an opportunity. Those guys have had opportunities, and they haven't taken advantage of it. And so it's going to be galling for them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of people were saying after watching that match last night, they're like, well, Zverev and Tsitsipas, these guys can't hang. I would say, again, they can serve better than those guys. Serve is
Yeah.
huge in tennis. If they can hold, those rallies don't even happen.
Yeah.
But if Alcaraz and Sinner get to the point where they can win more free points on serve, then it's over. It's like Kenny Smith at the All-Star game. It's over.
Yeah.
There's nothing. These guys, they don't play this brand of aggressive, consistent back and forth tennis.
Yeah.
This is a new wave, and this is I think this is the Djokovic effect. It's a Federer and Nadal and Djokovic effect.
Yeah.
But I really think that Zverev and Medvedev and Tsitsipas to a lesser extent, but Zverev and Medvedev especially, they're grinders. They sit back and they grind and they loop the ball deep. This is not the tennis that we saw yesterday. The tennis we saw yesterday was first strike. I'm going to take a strike, and more than first strike, I'm going to take your strike and hit it back even harder.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of the next wave. People are using the new strings and they're hugging them, and they've got great instincts and they're practicing these shots. And I don't think this is a fluke. I think you're going to see a couple of guys come up now. Everyone's going to play a little closer as the courts get a little faster.
Yeah.
And just like sports evolve, because pitching's evolved in baseball, basketball's evolved with the rules and three-point line, the analytics. I think these guys are being coached from a young age. Hug the baseline, take it early, and rip and grip, because you can't afford to just sit back against these big servers. You got to go for it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, this is an exciting time of tennis. I really the one I'm most excited for and see his rise is Tiafoe, and see what he takes from this tournament.
Yeah.
Whether he wins or loses. I want to see how he takes this
Yeah.
almost not a Cinderella run, because like everyone expected him to go a little deep, but not this deep. So
I hope that I don't think he's going to win, but I hope if he loses, like you said, he takes the positives away and focuses on the things that he did really well.
I think that's exactly what Ruud did, and he's playing much better because of his French Open run. Yeah, he's
Ruud.
Yeah,
French Open, he could have hung his head, but he built from it. You look at a Tsitsipas, he lost in the French Open last year, and he's spiraled.
Yeah.
Zverev took him months to get over some of those losses. I think some of this is just in match resilience, and some of it's just career resilience. Like, you have setbacks, you have an injury, something happens, you have a bad loss.
Yeah.
Who can shake it off and say, okay, it was just a bad day, or I got outplayed, and move on? And I think that will be the interesting thing for Kyrgios too. Like, does Kyrgios walk away from this Open pissed? Because I like the fact he was angry he lost. He broke 2 rackets. I think it's good that he cares, but how much does he care? Does he care enough to put himself in danger of that pain again, of losing when he put everything into it?
Yeah. Does he care enough to take this offseason and grind hard, or is he going to go
and try to win the Aussie Open, right? Is he
going to go,
or does he?
Yeah.
Or does he go in a video game like honeymoon binge and just not do any work, and then show up out of shape, and then because he doesn't want to handle the expectations, and he just that's what it's really about. I would hope that these guys will watch a Kachanov, Tiafoe, Ruud, or Alcaraz win this weekend and say, you know what, that should be me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to build off of that. And I hope that helps them. Versus last year, I think Djokovic winning everything kind of deflated the field maybe a little bit, where they're just like, okay, what's the point?
Yeah.
And you know what? We'll talk about this after the Open. What does this mean for the Aussie Open, right? What does it mean for the next slam's another hard court slam? All these guys are going to feel like they have a shot now.
Yeah.
And it'll be fascinating. All right, Arjun. Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll be back after the final, and we'll see if we're right.
Awesome. Thank you. Until next time, this Sunday.